What's up, guys, and welcome back to Tech Plant. Today we're going to be growing Monstera adansonii from seed. It's going to be pretty cool, so let's check it out. Well, as I mentioned in the intro, I got my hands on something special. This is a Monstera adansonii flower, and it is full of seeds. So in this video, we are going to be taking this weird alien-looking fruit pod thing, and we're going to get the seeds from it, process them, and we're going to plant them in a few different substrates. So first things first, we got to start to actually get to these seeds, and they're under this more fruit-like substance. On the Monstera deliciosa, it's much bigger and you can actually eat the fruit, but I tried a little bit on this one. It wasn't nearly as sweet or good. It was kind of okay, just a little bit bland, but I peeled most of it away so we can get at the actual seeds. So the seeds are under that little hexagon stuff that we just mentioned, and they're wrapped in like a little bit of a slight pulpy film skin thing, and we're going to take that off. But first you got to kind of scrape them all off of this stuff. It almost feels a lot like an anthurium. Honestly, a lot of the aroids are very similar in how they create berries. Maybe not so much philodendron, because a lot of that, the seeds are tiny, but luckily these are big and easy to process. Now, I've got some interesting ways to process anthurium seeds, but this will be my first time processing Monstera seeds, and it's not super easy to get that pulp off. It sits on there pretty good, so I just used dry paper towel to sort of make it stick to it, and then I rub it around like in a circular motion, and it sort of like peels that off quite nicely. Because it's slightly sticky, it really sticks to that really dry paper towel. So try it like that. You may find a different way, but it worked well for me. I just kind of rubbed the seeds lightly and that film comes right off. Once you've processed them, you should have these like small black seeds that look a lot like this. I'm not sure how other Monstera species seeds look like, but this is specific to the adansonii. I know my Monstera deliciosa seeds were much larger and big kind of green brown seeds. So I thought it'd be similar because it's all Monstera, but quite different. So kind of cool. So like most videos, I try and do a little bit different setups for the seeds so that way we can see what might perform best. So for this one, we're going to use pure sphagnum moss as one substrate, we're going to use extra large vermiculite as another, and just an aroid mix as the third substrate. And we're going to test these seeds in all of them. I am giving sphagnum moss a little bit bigger just because I know it always works. So I want to guarantee I have more seeds, or at least I think it's going to work. We'll find out with the results. So for this one, I'm just going to put some on the vermiculite and just push it in ever so slightly. I'm not trying to bury these things. Usually, a lot of times you don't have to. They just root and do their own thing, but just enough so they're surrounded by the substrate and they can get the moisture they need. The same thing for the soil substrate. I'm just pushing in ever so slightly so they're surrounded and they stay moist. However, for the sphagnum moss, since I have such a surplus for that section, I'm doing a little bit of both where they're sitting on top, and I'm kind of burying a few other ones. Not really burying, but again, a little bit under the substrate. So it's a little different from the other two, but we are doing both in the sphagnum moss, so we should still have a decent experiment here. By the way, this is like a Whole Foods food container, and it's excellent for this experiment. But yeah, I'm going to put these under grow lights, and we're going to let them sit and see what happens. Alright, so 5 days has passed. Let's take a look and see how they go. I know the Monstera deliciosa sprouted really fast, so let's check on these. Looking up really close in the vermiculite, you can see a lot of them are starting to sprout. The vermiculite is doing really well. There's a high rate of sprouting in there, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm starting to find vermiculite works really well for a lot of things because it holds water, but yet it's still kind of chunky. Looking at the soil, there is some sprouting. It feels a little bit behind. There's a little bit more like mold growth, and that's because it's more of an organic soil, because I've got like all kinds of stuff mixed in there. So I kind of suspected that. And then the sphagnum moss is doing just as good as the vermiculite, so there's a lot of sprouting everywhere. So we're going to seal it back up and throw it under those grow lights again and check on them in a little while. Alright, about 20 days has passed. Just looking at the wide shot, it's surprising we can already see little leaves starting. They are doing fantastic. In only 20 days, they have sprouted and they are growing their first leaves. Looking much closer though, you can really see the sphagnum moss has done excellent. There is a lot of growth, probably 100% germination ratio. I haven't really like counted every single one or looked, but it looks pretty darn good. Looking at the vermiculite, it is also doing excellent. There's a huge percentage. I'm going to say it's on par with the sphagnum moss. It is doing fantastic in this extra chunky perlite. However, moving on to the soil, it's not doing as good. They're actually significantly behind. Most are just starting to get their little like shaft built up, but they haven't really pushed out a leaf yet. But every other substrate, there's plenty of leaves started, so soil is already losing this race. We're going to close it up though and give it some more time. Alright, about 45 days has passed. Let's check them out. Right away from the wide shot, you can see there is clear victors so far in this substrate contest. The soil is doing pretty horrible, but looking up close, the vermiculite is doing fantastic. I mean, there is some really good growth. We got big leaves working on secondary leaves. Going over to the sphagnum moss, again, another amazing victory here. I would say there is really no difference between sphagnum moss and vermiculite. However, again, looking at that soil, it is really far behind. They are not really growing well. And I think a lot of the molds and stuff have kind of like inhibited those seeds from sprouting, and they're just significantly behind. All right, a whole 90 days has passed, and sorry, but I did lose some actual footage for the first time in a long time. I did the whole repotting thing. What I actually did was just combine the potting soil and the vermiculite and the sphagnum moss to just make a decent mix and put the plants in there. There are some other ones, but they're all the same, so I'm just showing you this one pot. But they are still all growing nicely. I just potted them up. That's really all you missed in the previous footage. So we're just going to set this thing aside and give it some more time. Alright, we are at the 120 day mark. About 4 months has passed and they are looking fantastic. We have some actual vines here and some fenestrations. Again, I missed filming like the whole repotting and stuff, but you can still see that they're growing strong after I've repotted them. They've been in here for I think a month since repotting and they're doing fabulous. Like I said, we have fenestrations. A lot of it has really taken off. They're just doing good, so I'm really happy to see that we got some successful plants out of this. And for sure, referring back to the previous footage, the potting soil like aroid mix did not work well at all. If you're going to start these seeds, I definitely recommend vermiculite or sphagnum moss. If you don't have either, I'm just going to go on a limb and assume that perlite would work pretty well because it's quite similar to how vermiculite and sphagnum moss works, so you could probably try that as well. But yeah, everything really worked out pretty well, and it was really cool to try growing these from seed. Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty cool to actually have a flower with the seeds in it. This is the first Monstera seeds grow video I've ever done that actually started with the fruit. I've done Monstera deliciosa, but again, those were already like defruited and they were just already like seeds that I could plant. So this was cool to get the actual flower, take them out, process them, plant them, and try some different substrates. I hope you guys like this video, and I hope if you ever find yourself with these seeds, now you kind of know what to do. As always guys, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.